Hi, good afternoon all. Welcome to Olsen Cafe. Today, the topic that we are going to cover is on Binomial Theorem. Now, in this summary sheet, you will see some of the key concepts that you need to know on Binomial Theorem. So for today's lesson, I will be focusing on point number 3, 4, and 5. That is namely how to do binomial expansion and how to make use of general term, and also to explain to you how can we find the term independent of x. Now, this is a question that we see in end of the year exam, question 12. So it says, write down and simplify the first three terms. So when I say write down and simplify, it simply means that we need to do binomial expansion. So to do that, so we need to have this formula. This formula will be given to you in the examination. So with this, what is important is that you will need to know how to identify what is the index n, which is 10. And then we also need to know that a itself here is 2 over x, and b, it is actually negative x squared. So a lot of students actually miss out on the negative sign. Now, with this, I'm able to substitute into the formula. So with this binomial expansion, when I sub in here, I will get my 10 as n, and then NC1, 10C1, and then a to the power of 9, and then b, the next term will be NC2, that's 10C2, A8, and b squared. What is important to also take note is that because since the index is 10, so if I'm going to list out all the terms here, there should be 11 terms. But since the question only asks for first 3 terms, so I just need to list out 1, 2, and 3 terms. But because I did not list out all, so it is also critical to have the plus dot 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 to indicate that there are more terms after that. Yeah, so once I have done that, all I need to do is using calculator, I will be able to simplify till I get this. Yeah. Now, some of the students, right, they get actually confused by this term, ascending order. So no need to worry about this term ascending order. Yeah, so usually this ascending order, right, the question itself will actually take care. Yep, so over here, when you look at the index, you can see it is already in ascending order. Yeah, so not to worry too much of this. Now, the other thing that you will also kind of helpful, that you make these 2 observations. So what you will see is, if you take note of the index of each term, right? So you will see that this term here is 10. So the index for the A term here is 9, whereas the B term here, the index is actually 1. So you observe 9 plus 1 actually gives you 10. So likewise, over here, if you look at the third term, the index here is 8. So 8 plus 2, this also gives you 10. Yeah, so by using this, it can actually help you to evaluate and to check your working and to see whether you're on the right track. The other thing that also it will be helpful to you is to take note of the sign of the term. So just to take note each time if the sign here is minus, so you will also notice that the sign of the expansion here, the sign here will be alternate. So we'll start off with a plus, then plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus. So these are some of the useful things that you can make use of, right, to help you check the answer. Now, so this covers the basic of how to do expansion. Now we move on to the AO3 types of question whereby reasoning is required. So over here in this question, they ask you to explain why every term is dependent of x. So first and foremost, we will need to understand what is the meaning of dependent. So dependent is actually the reverse of independent. All right, so dependent of someone else, it means I am very relying on this thing. Yeah, so when you talk about independent of x over here in mathematical term, all right, it simply means we are looking out for the constant term. So that is something for you to take note, the definition of the term independent of x. Now, the other one that you need to take note will be this term called general term. Now, in general term, in the formula sheet earlier on, you will see this. Yeah, so earlier on, we have already written down. All right, so let me also write here, n is equals to 10. And then our a is 2 over x. And our b is actually negative x squared. So with this, I sub all this term All right, I sub the N, A, and B. I sub A and B into the formula. So this is actually what I get. Yeah. So when I move on, I sub inside, I will get this. So some of you may say, hey, how how does it derive to this? So if you allow me to just work it out simply, so this term I will write down, this is actually 10CR. So I'm going to split the 2 over x. I'm going to write it down as 2 to the power of 10 minus r by using law of indices. Then the other one will give me x. Oops, I will get x equals to r minus 10. Yeah. So, and then the negative x squared itself, I split. This will give me this, and then x to the power of 2r. So once I am able to get this, then I combine the x term together. So this is what I have here. All right, so the most common mistake for this question here is students usually make mistake at negative 1 to the power of r. So some of the common mistake that we see is like this. Yeah, so students tend to mistake it and just to take out the index 2 and then to combine it together. Then after that it's split. So do take note of this mistake as well. So this is incorrect. Now, so come back to the term independent of x. So independent of x simply means we want to look out for the constant term. So therefore, with the constant term, all right, which means I need a term whereby index is equal to 0. Why? Because we all know from the law of indices is that x to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Basically, any number to the power of 0, it's always give us a 1. So by solving this equation, we will see that the value for r is actually 10 over 3. So we know very well it is not possible to have 10 over 3, all right? So we can't have a term that is non-integer. Yeah, so since r is not an integer, then we can say that, oh, there is no such term. Yeah, so if there is no term that is independent of x, therefore we conclude that every term is dependent of x. So once with this understanding, I can simply just write down the conclusion. So this conclusion, I left it in blue simply because this is the final answer. Yeah, so remember to do a final statement, the conclusion in the question after you solve. Now, so this is done, then we are ready to move on to part C. Now, when it comes to part C, over here, they ask you to find the term independent of x. So we are going to make use of the general term that we have found out from part B. So in part B, we already found that the general term gives us right over here. So I'm going to combine this. So at one look at the second term itself, we have 2 plus 3x. So we know very well with the 2 plus 3x, right? There is no way for us to there is no way for us to multiply with the 2, because if I multiply with the 2, I will not be able to find the term independent of x. So what I want is to actually multiply by 3x. So when that happens, so I simplify again and combine the x term together. So when I combine the x term together, all right, so I will get this. So I will have a term x equals to, x to the power of 3x. All right, 3r minus 9. So with this, if I want to find the term independent of x, which I mentioned earlier on, I need to equate it to x to the power of 0. So again, independent of x simply means I'm looking for constant term. Yeah, so with this, I solve, I'm able to get r equals to 3. Now, so once I have found the value of r, I can simply just substitute the value of r right into the term that I have found earlier on. And then with this, I'm able to get the term independent of x, that is negative 40680. Now, what is important to take note is that a lot of students tend to give the answer as T4. But to take note, even though the question say find the term independent of x, they are not referring to which term. Is it T4, T5, or T6? But they are referring to the constant term that you are supposed to find. All right, so do bear in mind. There's some of you able to actually to work it out and to see that in order for you to find the term independent of x, you will know that the term x to the power 3r minus 10 is actually equals to x to the power of -1. So from there, you still get r equals to 3. So if you work out the answers using this method, it is also acceptable. Yeah. So I think with this, I have concluded, some of the key things that you need to know on binomial theorem. Thank you very much for watching and learning in this lesson together with me. So if you have not subscribed the channel, please do so. So each time when I upload a new lesson, right, you will receive the notification. All right. So thank you for watching. All right. At Olsen Cafe, Mathematics Made Simple. Bye. See you at the next video.